Paul, thanks for joining me today. Really appreciate you spending time with us all. Paul, if you could, please just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Accuride.
Sure. My name's Paul Wright. I'm the Senior Vice President and CIO of IT and Inventory Control at Accuride Corporation. Accuride is in the heavy trucking industry globally. Our primary product is wheels and wheel end components to the big truck market.
Very good. Well, we live in interesting times, and obviously the focus of our event this week is smart manufacturing, but we can't help but address the fact that COVID-19 has had an impact on all our lives. Could you reflect a little bit on the impact of COVID-19 on Accuride's business?
We started dealing with this around Chinese New Year with our Chinese factory, which is focused primarily on off-highway products, agricultural stuff, and construction. But we had to take down that plant because that was in the province where the virus originated. We had to take that plant down immediately through the Chinese New Year. And then as that plant started to come back online, then we saw the wave come across globally in terms of our manufacturing presence with both factories where we were present, as well as the factories where our customers were present, really going kind of like dominoes down across both Europe and then across North America. And then Russia was actually a little bit later than everyone else. The US has actually been a little bit different for us because we are identified as a critical infrastructure company. And so it's been incumbent on us to maintain our supply lines to the trucking OEMs and the trucking aftermarket to make sure that those trucks can stay on the road because, as you know, that's absolutely critical for the supply chains in the United States.
One other point, Paul, that I've heard a lot of people talking about is, what we learned in the transition to need to work from home and whether or not the power of cloud and SaaS, was a helpful part of that transition. Could you speak to your own experience there?
We're lucky in our sort of our base business in the United States that we've been sort of going through our cloud transformation now for 6-7 years. And as such, all of our locations were converted over to Plex a few years ago. And in any and all of those factories where we needed people to start going to work from home, we were able to do that, really immediately. So all that we needed to do was change our security just a tiny bit in terms of unrestricting IPs on some of the critical people who would be working from home. But for the most part, it was kind of invisible. However, we were plenty busy in terms of my team because on one of our more recent acquisitions that's headquartered in Germany, that is a shop that's primarily SAP being an on-premise solution. As we very quickly had to move to mandated work from home in Germany and France and other locations, we very quickly had to spin up sort of emergency extra capacity around VPN connections. We went from needing sort of 100 or so to needing 250 very, very quickly. Unfortunately, I've got a good networking team where we were able to get that done within 3 or 4 days. But still, it's we're still seeing it now in terms of even in the United States. It's not as good of an experience for our engineers. It's not as good as an experience for our engineers globally. But for the most part, after some fits and starts in our rest of the world locations, we were able to keep operating and keep supplying to our customers. But for the most part, it's been a pretty good experience, and I think really has validated a strategy of being able to work from anywhere and be able to execute decisions from wherever we are in the world, whenever we are in the world, seamlessly. And we've been able to do that both through mobile and through desktop for a long time.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And I do think that this crisis has shown a light on the importance of IT for sure, and the power of cloud, and you articulated it well in your ability to work from home. By the way, I'd be happy to help you. I know Plex would with those operations that aren't using Plex. And back to maybe smart manufacturing, and there's again this. I think this crisis has shined a light on the importance of smart manufacturing. You've been really, I think, ahead of the game too in another area, which one of the capability pillars of smart manufacturing is integration, which means a few different things. But one of the things that it means to Plex is the ability to integrate disparate applications to create unique competitive advantage. I know you've done some powerful things there with Plex and Workday. Could you speak to that a little bit?
When we started our journey, one of the big things was that depending on where you got the data from, you would tell a different story, and based on those different stories, you'd make different decisions, right? And we've been violently opposed to that. And so what we've been able to do is, the identity is sort of mastered in one solution and then replicated over somewhere else. The supplier masters are mastered somewhere, replicated somewhere else. Same with customers. And so when we look at sales, and we've got a ton of great data within Plex that is generated at a transaction level down to exactly who did what when. We're able to mesh that together with other data that we have from Workday now to really answer questions at a deeper level than we've been able to, and put some automation around those things, because I think a lot of people can find the answers, but what we're really focused on is how can the data be presented in such a way that you're not going hunting for the truth, that the truth is obvious to you.
I think that's a great example, and I agree with you. The key to being able to have the information people need available at their fingertips in the context in which they need it to do their job is a cornerstone of smart manufacturing, and it's why we've been so committed to this idea of openness and the ability to integrate, because Plex isn't always going to be the right place to do exactly what you need to do. If I could take that a step further, so the integration capability is one. Another one is the ability to track information, to do root cause and tracing. I think you've combined a little bit of both of those concepts, integration of data sources and traceability and tracking of information, in some unique things that you're doing in your validation and design labs. Can you talk a little bit about that?
What we've been able to do is take all of our validation and testing facilities and say, hey, that's just another way of a job shop production environment. And so what we're able to do now is we've taken all of the testing equipment and we've done PLC integration back to a dashboard that we built within Plex. And so you can see every test that's running on every product globally. Wow. And so this is the first thing that we are doing at all of our sites now. And so you can see globally what we're testing and when we're testing that. And, using all of the capabilities within Plex in terms of the document control side of things, in terms of having all of our quality specifications, in terms of having our FEMAs and control plans in there, and being able to capture every piece of data that we get from a test and then log that against a specific test or a job in Plex, and then be able to look at that and have many years of history of doing that. And so then as we compare that to the results that we get by field testing, then that really gives us a different level of validation than we've been able to have previously. Through using Plex, we actually managed to get our main corporate test lab is now certified to an ISO standard as a testing facility, which is something that we hadn't done before, and so we're proud of that, and we think that again is what gives us the ability to give the best products in the market to our customers.
Yeah, that's a great example. I mean, you're doing end-to-end integration. You're using a common process globally. You're accessing the data for common analytics to make sure that you're achieving the result you expected. That's a great example of smart manufacturing. I think you really are an example of smart manufacturing as an exemplar, Paul. And Accuride's a great client, and we really appreciate you personally spending this much time with us. So thank you very much for your time today, Paul.
No, thanks for having me and giving me an opportunity to say how proud I am of working with my team at Accuride.